We're continuing our look into 1 John, so if you're having trouble finding it, you can go ahead and get a start now. It's on about page 1000 in my Bible, so if you're looking through your Bible for it, it's going to be back here. It's not in the front. This is not John. This is not regular Saint John. This is not the Gospel of John. This is 1 John. It's one of his letters. As we've been telling you, it's one of the last things he does. John is the last remaining apostle, and he's writing to the church to try to kind of help them get through what it's going to be like to not have him around. You have to think about that and put it in context. If you knew these were the last things you were going to say to your family, what kind of things would you choose? What words would you pick? How strong would you be? How serious, how convinced, how settled on what you were going to say would you be in this situation? That's John's situation. Pastor Tim told you it had been about 60 years since Jesus has passed away. So think back, those of you who are old enough to know what 60 years are. Those of you who are only in your 30s, double that. You start thinking about your parents' age, you're probably getting closer. 60 years ago, when this book is written, Jesus died. And Jesus was resurrected. And it changed everything. And that's what John is trying to get across to them and to us. We've been sharing the title. I think Tim created this title for us, and it's been a really good thing to understand or to think about. The real Jesus has real solutions for real problems. Because, as I told you last week, people are selling a plastic banana Jesus to the world. People are going around trying to tell them that Jesus wasn't actually Jesus, that he wasn't real, that he was some kind of a spirit thing but not a real body, and that because Plato was right, which he wasn't, but they thought he was, that the body was one piece and the spirit was another piece, and the two never interacted. This church said, well then, how could Jesus be real as human flesh? He had to be some other thing. And if he's not real human flesh, guess what else he couldn't do? Really die for you. Because his body could, but it wouldn't touch him. And then they said, because your body is separate from your spirit, and since your spirit can't be polluted by your body, you can sin all you want. So that's what they were selling. That was the plastic banana gospel that these guys were selling. And that's what's got John so worked up. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we are not wanting to buy plastic banana copies of Jesus. We want to have the full, honest experience of one who would rather die than see us miss just the opportunity to go home. Lord, help us to have and understand the passion of this man, John. In Jesus' name, amen. So this week in our subset title, I want to talk to you about passing the baton. Passing the baton. I don't really watch a lot of track and field. Let's be honest. I don't really watch much track and field at all, except when it's the Olympics. Anybody else with me on that? You kind of just don't watch a lot of track and field except for the Olympics. I watch it when it's the Olympics because it matters to me. The rest of the time, So I was looking for pictures of track and field events. What I first put up was baton fails. Baton pass fails. But then I realized that isn't what I wanted you to hear. I didn't want you to think about dropping the baton. I wanted you to think about actually getting the baton. And so I wanted to give you a picture of the baton being passed. This is a great pass. The one who's taking the next piece of the run has their hand perfectly back in place. And the one who's about to lay the baton in their hand, just finishing their segment, this is actually, I believe this is just a 440, so it's a dead-on sprint. They're just laying theirs into the other hand, and this is almost a perfect baton pass. If you look at it, see where the front hand is? It's back, it's open, it's right where that baton's going to land, and the hand that's coming is just about to hit. And as soon as it touches the other person's hand, they're to let go. That's what happens with baton passes. If the person in the back lets go too fast, the baton hits the ground. If they go too slow, they slow the other person down. And so this thing has to just be beautifully and perfectly timed. This is what they work on over and over and over again. These are world-class sprinters. They're going to be fast. But if the baton isn't passed correctly, it's a whole different story. And there are lots of those where the baton did not get passed correctly, and it caused problems. It caused different Olympic teams to be disqualified or to lose the race, be last in the race because they dropped it. Or they just took it too slow, and as they got it, it slowed them down enough that they took third or fourth place and are out of the running at that point. Out of the running. So here is the apostle, about ready to pass the baton on to the next generation. He can feel it in his body. You know what I mean? His body is starting to feel all of the years that have passed. He's at minimum in his 70s. There are some estimates that he may be as high as in his 90s when he dies, but he is pushing the end of his life, and he sees the end of the road coming. And in that understanding, in that knowledge, he is really wanting to get this baton placed in the hands of the church. And it's right then when the plastic banana salesman shows up. Isn't that just like the devil? Just when he's about to hand it off to the believer so that they can take it on, that's when they start selling this other dualism, this whole story about Gnosticism, where we haven't even talked about that, but that's a whole secret knowledge, that if you have the secret knowledge, you get to be saved, and if you don't, too bad for you. It's a mess. And at that moment, as John is closing the chapters in his own life, he's like, I need to get this baton correctly passed into the hands of the next generation. Christianity has been the passing of the baton from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, for 2,000 years. If you remember when we moved into this building, I gave you all a little length of chain. And I told you that this chain represents the links in the chains that went from Jesus to you. That someone told Jesus' story, probably one of the apostles, the original disciples, those originals that followed him around wherever he went. Someone told the story, and then 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 someone told the story, and someone told the story, and someone told you. And it may have been a bunch of people. If you grew up around church, maybe it was your Sabbath school teacher, maybe it was an elder in the church, maybe it was somebody who greeted you at the doors, maybe it was the pastor. Maybe it was a succession of them. But those links created the baton that was handed to you. You were given the next link in the chain, and the link stops with you if you don't share. And the baton stops with you if you don't share. The cool thing about what God has done is you get to pass the baton off and he hands you another one. And as long as you are breathing, he keeps giving you another baton. Your goal while you were in the hospital ready to die, you just say, okay, here comes the nurse, I'm going to hand her a baton. Here comes a doctor, I'm going to hand him a baton. If you're sitting in your living room and you grab your heart, quick, hand the baton to somebody. If you're standing in the pulpit and you know it's about to come, make sure your last words are good ones. The idea is you always have something to give. Keep giving. Keep giving it away. Keep giving it away. So our guy John, as he's describing this thing, as he's starting it out, we're reviewing for a minute. Chapter 1, verse 1. We proclaim to you the one who existed from the beginning. Jesus doesn't really exist. He was a kind of a spirit and kind of a body, but never actually what he claimed to be. See why John is talking like this. Whom we have heard and seen. We saw him with our own eyes, and Tim, I got a different translation so it doesn't say handled. Can you handle that? Okay, don't forget to touch Tim. Whom we have touched him with our own hands. He is the word of life. Here's your baton, guys. It's Jesus. Jesus is the only answer. The real Jesus, not this phony baloney plastic banana Jesus, but the real Jesus has real answers for real people. The real Jesus has real solutions for real problems that real people have. There is no other option. If you're sitting here today and this is your first time in church for the last 25 years, this is your first time in church for, 3 years, this is the first time in church ever, and you don't know the real Jesus, you're not sure there is such a thing, this can handle investigation. Do the investigation. Read it for yourself. Discover it for yourself. Ask somebody you know who you think really knows Jesus. They'll point you in a good direction. If you don't understand it, read the Gospels. If you still don't understand it, read them again. Keep reading the Gospels till you think you understand Jesus. Then you can move on to the theology. But don't read the theology first. It's going to confuse you. Get to know Jesus. It's the real Jesus you need. It's the real Jesus we have all needed. And this is John's first point. I've seen him. I've talked to him. I've touched him. He's real. The death was real. The resurrection was real. The story is real. So by verse 3, he's saying already, still first chapter, verse 3, remember that he's been preaching for a long time. We proclaim to you what we ourselves have actually what? Seen and heard, that you may have fellowship with us. And our fellowship is with the Father and with the Son, Jesus Christ. We're telling you this about this person we've seen and heard and touched and understood so that you can connect with what we've found. That you can begin to have a relationship. You can begin to connect personally with God himself and with Jesus Christ. Because there are the plastic banana salesmen. No, they get yellow. Because that's the color of the plastic banana. They're saying Plato was right. There are two beings, one physical and the other spiritual. Jesus was not really human. Sin can't interact with your spirit. Now, if somebody were selling you this, you've heard it again now 2 times, 3 times if you were here last week. Would you buy this? Would you prefer this? It's a good sales, right? This is like the promise of promises. Well, you kind of just do away with that first piece because we want Jesus to be as real as possible, right? But, if I can't actually sin, I'm free to do whatever I want. They're selling that at every channel on your TV. They're selling that on every movie in the theater. In one form or another, this is the story. Over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. You deserve to do whatever you want. But it doesn't work. I told a friend of mine that I have told you that the bridge is out on all the roads but one. That's the picture. The road of total self-aggrandizement, bridge is out. You can't get home from there. The road of having your own way, doing whatever you want, bridge is out. You can't get home from there. The road of anger, selfishness, violence, meanness, bridge is out. You can't get home from there. There's only one road that completely goes all the way home. That's the real Jesus, who is the real answer to life and death. It's the only one. And I say that knowing that in our world today, something else is being sold all the time. I know that because I hear it all the time. You know how many things I've been told that I deserve? I deserve a new RV, by the way. I deserve a new home. I deserve a new car. I deserve a Harley. I deserve a vacation. I deserve a better wife. Sorry.
Amen.
The commercials also say she deserves a better husband, but that was facing the wrong direction for me. I deserve better children. I deserve to be smarter, better looking, thinner, fatter, whatever I choose. I deserve it. I deserve it. Advertising doesn't just offer us things anymore. It used to just offer us things. Now it tells us we deserve them. You know what the Bible says we deserve? Be glad you're sitting. Final destruction. Complete annihilation.
Amen.
Because of sin. And Jesus said, I'll take that so you don't have to. It's a better story. It's a better answer. I have never found indulging my own wandering ways to provide help in the end. And you haven't either. Selfishness leads to greed, leads to more selfishness, leads to more greed, and pretty soon I become paranoid about my stuff. And I find myself like Howard Hughes living in a place that's just my own little tomb to protect my stuff. Crazy, huh? So John has work to do as we today have to get our minds around the baton that we're going to pass. John has work to do. He is trying to get the right message onto the people who are going to have to listen to this after he's gone. Boy, I'm getting very deep. They are going to get this message again and again and again and again. And he's going to have to find a way to prevent them from falling under it. Are you guys getting reverb like I'm getting up here? No? They must be coming out of these monitors for me, guys. Would you kill the monitors? From up here, I've got all this background noise. The point is, though, John is hearing people tell lies about Jesus, and he's trying to make sure everybody gets the right story. So this is why he starts down defining the problem. If you say you have not sinned, you make Jesus a liar. Okay? Those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did. So he's going to find the problem. If you say you live in God and you're not behaving like Jesus, that's not true. If you say you have not sinned, you're making Jesus a liar. That's not true. He then goes and starts re-quoting Jesus in John 15. When you watch, have you been reading these books? 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. It's a quick read. You can read them multiple times in an hour. You'll catch him saying abide, especially if you read in the same version. If you read the New King James in John 15 and you read the New King James here, or King James in both, different translations will change it, but I like the fact that he keeps the same one. If you're reading John in the Greek, you would get the same thing. So read a translation that's consistent. Here's the New King James. It says in John 15, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. And then he's going to say in his book, and we're not going to go through all of them because we don't have time, abide, 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 abide. He's going to continue to repeat Jesus as the answer to the question, so what does it look like? What do we do then? How does this work? If those guys aren't true, then what is true and how does it function? Isn't that what every Christian is trying to sort out? How does this apply to me? How do I make this make sense in my daily life? In my circumstances, with the cards I've been dealt, how do I play the hand I've been dealt? Because I'm not big and strong and handsome, or I'm not the most beautiful person or woman or man. I am not the smartest. I am not the sharpest. I am not, and this is my hand. It's the only hand I have. How do I play my hand in this game? This is what John is trying to give to the next generation. He's trying to say to them, if you want to understand this, listen to Jesus. Jesus says, abide in me. If I abide in you, then you can do everything. Without me, you can do nothing. No thing. John picks it up in just one place I'm going to give to you. Now, my little children. Don't miss that statement. How do you speak to your kids, parents? There's a tone most parents take with their kids. You will find when your kids get older, if you still have little kids, you'll find when your 15-year-old kid comes in the house and you go, "Oh, sweetie," they're like, "Don't do that, Mom." Right? You laugh because it's true. You probably did it to your mom too. "Oh, sweetie, I'm not the puppy, Mom. I'm 15 years old. I'm a man." The mom then goes, "Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll try not to do it again, son. At least not in front of your friends." This is the tone he's taking. My little children. My sweet little children. My sweet children. And now, little children. And now, my little children. You have to, I know I'm overstating this, but you have to understand the heart that he's trying to portray. The people whom I love, whom I have a connection with, that I desire to see Jesus when he comes. You, my little children, abide in him, in Jesus, that when he appears, we may have confidence. How do you get ready for Jesus to come? He just told you. Abide in him. Hang out with Jesus. Stay close to him. He brings up the Holy Spirit. He says you've been anointed with Spirit. It does things that are going to lead you and guide you. But the point is, stay connected. Stay close. Jesus says, if you stay close to me, you will bear fruit. If you break away from me, there's nothing you can do, because you can't do it on your own. Your own heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. And you love lies like, I can sin all I want and still be saved. We love that. I can do whatever I want. And God's going to rescue me because he's nice. He is nice. And he loves you too much to let you destroy yourself. So he's trying to help us. Abide. Stick with me. Hold my hand. Stay close by. We'll get you through. Again, my little children, let no one deceive you. He who practices righteousness is righteous. Okay, raise your hand if you got that. That guy? 2, 3. I meant it. He who practices righteousness is righteous. Raise your hand if you get that. Is it pretty straightforward? If you practice righteousness, you know why he can say this so confidently? Because John has already taught them that you can only practice righteousness by the leading of the Holy Spirit, by the anointing that is within you. Because he knows that there's fake righteousness and fake practicers. But he's saying if you're practicing the real righteousness, if you're practicing a kind of righteousness that is obvious to other people, that's righteousness. So if you see somebody who walks into the church and they claim to be something that they're not, and they start acting like they're not, or acting like that, you'll recognize it. He's saying, I'm handing you the baton. You want to know what a phony looks like? You can tell. You want to know what a fake believer looks like? You can tell. Because their righteousness is this thick. You know, they say this about the South. How many Southerners we have here today? Anybody born in the South? Raise your hand if you're born in the South. Really? No one was born. One. And I don't mean Southern California. There's 2. Arkansas, I forgot about that. Kansas is close, Tim. They say about the South that the kindness is a mile wide and an inch deep. You know what you want no one in the South to say about you? Bless your heart. It sounds so sweet when they say it, but it means you're an idiot. It's just a much nicer way to say you're an idiot. Oh, bless your heart. You can tell when somebody is a fake. He's just saying you'll recognize it. A person who's practicing righteousness will look like it. A person who's not, trust your instincts. They're not. Here's the baton. Next verse. My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. If you didn't understand what I said when I said a person who practices righteousness is righteous, let me explain it to you one more time. If they say good things and they don't do good things, that's not practicing righteousness. This is when I need Daryl with the drums. Seems so practical, seems so simple, seems so almost too easy. But he's trying to hand the baton off to the next generation in ways that will make sense to them because they've got a bunch of phonies out there teaching. And he's saying, look, this is what it looks like to follow Jesus. This is how you'll be ready for the second coming. Abide in him. Hang out with him. Stay close to him. He'll get you home. Jesus put it this way, yoke yourself together with me. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. In other words, I will help lift the burden. And I've tried to give you this picture before. If you think of Jesus pulling and you pulling, you recognize that mostly you're just skipping because he's the big driver. And if you stay yoked together, you get home. Same statement. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask what you will. It will be given to you. Why? Because if you're that connected to me, you will be connected to the heart of God. You will understand the will of God. You will call on God in ways that align with him. Ever wonder why Jesus went into the pool of Bethesda and only one man got healed that day? Bugs the heck out of me. Bugs me every time I think about it. Why not clear the place? I don't know. It's one of my questions for God. There had to be somebody else who wanted to get healed that day. But he picked one. Alignment with God's heart. It's on my list of questions. It's a long list. Once in a while I get a biblical answer that pops up and tells me. Mostly I just have questions. Because I have this much brain. And I have an eternal God. I am going to have questions I cannot answer. The apostle is saying that we're going to keep this easy for you. Righteous people behave righteously. This is like first grade, right? When your teacher said, this is how this works. The word is spelled T-O-P. No other way. 2 consonants, 1 vowel. Got it, Jimmy? Uh-huh. Good. Now, the word is spelled S-T-O-P. What did we do now, Jimmy? He has to keep it simple because it needs to be communicable from person to person to person to person to person to person to person. It gets much deeper and there's a lot more to learn. But that first stage of learning has to be about that deep. You're being told this. This is how to know that this is not true. You're being told that. This is how to know that that is true. Keep it simple. The baton that is being passed is the love of God as described in Jesus. If you can keep that one piece in mind, you can share all your life. You know everything you need to know about telling someone about what God is like, what Jesus is like? The love of God is demonstrated. The love of the creator of the universe is demonstrated in that he came in the person of Jesus to die for you rather than you having to die. Here's your baton. Everything after that is a matter of growth and teaching and leadership. Holy Spirit, other Christians. I'm passing the baton on to you guys. Here's the baton. God loves you, and we've witnessed that in Jesus. It's 1 John chapter 3, verse 16. By this we know love. What do we know? By what? He laid down his life for us. The whole story comes down to that. And John is handing the baton off. John's heart's fluttering a little bit. John's blood's starting to thicken. He doesn't do well in the cold anymore. John's starting to struggle. His circulation in his feet aren't so good, and so he has to keep extra wrapping on them, and after he walks a little while, he has to put them up because his legs start to swell. John's lost all his hair. He's beginning to lose his hearing and his eyesight. They threw him out on Patmos thinking an old man would die for sure, but God kept him alive. They threw him into a pot of boiling oil, but it didn't work. Came out of that alive. And now he knows that time is coming for him to close his eyes for the last time. And he says, guys, you can make a difference in the world. You can change the world. You can fix the mess that's going on out there. You don't have to believe all this craziness that's being taught. Here's the bottom line. This is how we understand love. Because God revealed his love by dying on a cross so that you don't have to. This is the old story of Christianity. But it is the real story. Without this story, there is no story. Without this truth, Christianity is a vacuum. If Jesus is not real, if this is a fable, we're in trouble. But if God actually came to this crazy little dot to die so we don't have to, we ought to take that deal. And John says, here's your baton. Share it with the next generation. Tell the next group. Tell those people who don't understand. Tell those people who've been taken in by the lies. Tell them it's just Jesus. You have all kinds of opportunities to bless someone. Could you take a minute and think about who you might bless? Could you think about who you know who has a confused picture of who God is? Who do you know who you could just say this one thing to? Yeah, I follow God. I try to align myself with him. I try to abide in Jesus because I believe the love of God was shown to mankind when Jesus died on the cross so that I don't have to. I talked to you about an elevator speech. This is even shorter. You could get through the one floor in an elevator ride with that. This is what John is trying to get to them and to us. Who could you help? Do you have a prayer list of people that you know who don't know God? Could you make one? Do you have a prayer list for yourself of your doubts, of your concerns that you'd like God to help you with? If you don't, why not make one? He already knows. Writing it down is not going to scare him. It might scare you. But if you can get it out, if you can put it on your prayer list, if you can begin to put it before the throne of God on a regular basis, big things can change in your life. You can lose your anger. You can give it to Jesus. And he will take it. If you'll keep giving it away until you quit taking it back, you can lose your fear. You can just keep giving it to Jesus. And if you just keep giving him and you eventually stop taking it back, you can lose it. It's true. Real answers for real people's problems are in Jesus. And the final answer is still Jesus. Don't allow the love of anything or anyone else to get ahead of him. These are big issues. I'm going to pray for you. And then I have one more slide I want to show you, but I don't want to mix the two. So would you bow your heads with me? Go ahead, bow your heads, close your eyes. I'm looking. Father in heaven, I ask for your Spirit to rest on this place. That the Spirit may abide in the hearts of this family. Those in this room, those who are watching from wherever they are today, that your Spirit will speak loudly to all of us. And that you will speak loudly through all of us. Holy Spirit, bring to our minds the people we should be praying for. And bring the opportunity for our lips to be of service to you. Help us to live a righteousness that people will recognize so that when we speak for you, they don't dismiss our words because of our hypocrisy. Help us to trust you for real. To give to you the things we value most. And to give to you our doubts. And to give to you our dreams. I pray for that power in the Spirit to fall on us. Amen.